Now, I want to address another dynamic that's popped up in the aftermath of this. A lot of the voices in the NFL media have chimed in with something along the lines of Tua should not play again this year. Period. And I don't know that that helps the situation at all. Because, first of all, why? If he recovers from this and is cleared by the appropriate protocols and processes, why would he not play?
Right.
He's a football player.
Right.
How long do you extend this? Are you saying he should never play again? It's one thing to say we think he's had too many and he should never play again, okay? But to say he should just take the rest of the year off and never play again this year, I don't know how that helps anyone or anything. I don't know what science, medicine, common sense that's rooted in. It's just kind of like, hey, we're exhausted with this topic. Do us a favor and put him on the sideline for the rest of the year so we don't have to wrestle with this, so we don't have to talk about this. I think once he's cleared properly, appropriately, and effectively cleared to play, why wouldn't he play again if that's what he wants to do this season? It's a different issue as to whether he should ever play again given the head injuries he suffered. And I think back to what Chris Collinsworth said that first game he came back, the Sunday nighter against Pittsburgh. He asked Tua in one of the production meetings if Tua's parents want him to keep playing, and he said, I don't know. He may be getting some pressure from family members to step away. But that's different from just this weird broad brush, he shouldn't play again this season. I'd be less uncomfortable with he should never play again at all than I am with he should never play again this season. Because, again, if he's cleared, what difference does it make whether it's this season or next season? If he's cleared and he wants to play, he should play. If we're going to talk about should he never play again, that, to me, is a more reasonable conversation than just shutting him down for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of context into this situation that's, needs to be unpacked, and it's not necessarily, I'm not a doctor. I think the first thing I would say is just that it does seem like there's the knowledge out there, again, that, hey, the brain being bruised as it is in a concussion process, that, hey, the more time, the merrier as far as letting it heal and having something pop up, again, maybe, quite as quickly or with lack of a big-time hit to the head. I mean, it seems to be that's out there. I don't know that exact science, Mike. I'm not sure there. And also, too, there's the thought of, again, I don't want to sound insensitive, but the severity of the concussion would certainly be a part of the conversation for me. Again, the bell rung was just the bell rung forever until like 3 years ago, which was, now it's the concussion and you're in the protocol. But we got a lot of people in football, myself included, where I got up a few times and saw 3. And it's like, Mick said, hit the one in the middle. Okay, there's the one in the middle. Well, I mean, in today's day, I'd be in concussion protocol probably. Then I would just go, oh, man, I got hit in the head. Doctor going, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Gosh, it kind of knocked me out for a loop for a second, but I'm okay. I mean, that's how it went back in that day, let alone even worse than my father's day or Terry Bradshaw's day. So I do think the severity of the concussion when you're talking about season ending or career ending is got to be a part of the conversation as well.
Well, I think part of it is PR. Remember when he had the concussion against the Bengals? He was cleared to return for the game against the Vikings, but they still didn't play him. And I think that's part of what creeps into this. Just the idea, we screwed this up again. Another bad look for the organization. We're just not going to play him again this year because we can't take any more of these bad looks. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we screw this up again. We've had enough. And you wonder what kind of pressure they may be getting from the league to shut him down for the rest of the year. It doesn't make sense from a medicine and science standpoint. If he's cleared, he's cleared.
Right.
If he's passed all the steps to come back, there's very careful analysis, 5 levels, more and more exercise and constant monitoring by the independent neurological consultant and the team doctor, and you do a little bit more and you do a little bit more, and are you okay? Yeah, he's okay. He's better, he's fine, he's healed. Okay, he's cleared. Well, maybe he's not. Maybe we just don't want to put him back in harm's way given what happened the last time. And that to me is when the question of should he ever play again becomes more relevant than should he not play again this year. And this is the first guy in this relatively limited sample size of concussions and being cleared to return. The first quarterback. Javid Best was the first guy that just kind of got to the point where nobody's going to clear this guy to ever play again, given his history of concussions. And that's ultimately the thing that it doesn't matter if Tua's parents want him to play, if anyone else close to him wants him to play, and he just gives in and says, I'm not going to play, I'm going to step away from my chosen profession, and I'm 25, 26 years old. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? I want to play football until I lack my physical skills and can't do it anymore. Well, okay, I'll agree with you and not play. That's different from not being able to find a doctor anywhere that will sign the paperwork. We went through this with Mike White. He went to 10 different doctors trying to get somebody to say, I'll clear you to play with a rib that may snap off and puncture your lung. And he couldn't find anyone to do it. That's the dynamic that we need to consider now and moving forward with Tua as he finishes the third year of his career. How long until he can't get cleared by anyone to play? That, to me, is a more relevant question than should he choose to step aside. There's going to be a point where it's not going to be his choice, Chris.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point where he just won't find anyone that says, I'm putting my name and my reputation on this piece of paper that says Tua Tagovailoa is cleared to play.
Yeah, listen, I think that's a real possibility. You got to be worried about that if you're Tua, if you're the Dolphins. I do. I hope, again, it's about the information and the testing and the evaluation of the brain and not necessarily the number of concussions. Because like we've said, I mean, you're in concussion protocol now if you just, for some reason, hey, the spotter who failed in this instance sees anything at times. We see guys go, man, they're in the concussion protocol. And I hear from coaches and players all the time where, it can be a little annoying because a guy's like, I'm totally fine. I didn't even get hit in the head, but they get thrown out of the game. So there's got to be that balance there. But then also, I think to the point, Mike, we're talking here too is, again, I go back to Tua and his size, the size of the human being once again. Again, that does not happen to Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes, where they just get tackled at the feet and they can't control their head and their neck from hitting the ground, because they're bigger humans. They're able to control that force there. And, I just worry about that with Tua in general. That was a talk. He's a smaller human being. He's As the announcer said during the game the other day, he's not terribly elusive either. He's quick in hopping around the pocket. He's not very fast. And, man, now you're playing the Patriots, who got a good pass rush and a lot of big dudes, and then you got the Jets the next week after that. That's where I think about Tua the human being and worry about him a little going forward.
I said this in the aftermath of the hit that he took against the Bengals. The physics are not in his favor.
No.
So you have to do different things to avoid putting yourself in a position where a guy can swing you around and throw your head onto the ground, or just routine pull you down and your head snaps and hits the ground. Right. Drew Brees never had that happen to him because he knew, I've got to get rid of this football before I'm ever in a position where one of these guys who is so much larger than me will start to manipulate my body in a way that may cause me to hit the ground hard and hit my head hard. And to his credit, he's fearless. He's fearless to the point where he has put himself unnecessarily in harm's way. And that may be the great irony here. The guy is so courageous and he plays with such a reckless abandon that he may be abandoned by any doctor ultimately that would be in a position to say he's allowed to continue to play. And I think at some point the NFL, the giant football machine made up of constantly interchangeable parts, will, for its own best interests, pull Tua out and set him aside. If we're going to be sensitive to head injuries, we need guys who aren't sensitive to head injuries. We need guys that don't have a bunch of concussions. We just can't do that because that makes everybody, I hate to say this, but that's kind of the mindset. right? If we have a guy that keeps getting concussions and keeps making this a talking point and keeps being the center of this, that's what when Tua was interviewed by Maria Taylor, he's very uncomfortable with it because I think he understands at a certain point it becomes a scarlet letter.
Right.
And they're just not going to want you in the league. They're not going to want you on the Dolphins. They're not going to want you on any team because we got to worry about the next Tua concussion.
Right.
And we'd rather have guys play that we never have that conversation, even if they are just expertly hiding the symptoms or whatever the case may be, grabbing their knee instead of their head. We know all that stuff happens. But the point is, once you start getting flagged, you do get that scarlet letter. You do get that stigma. You do create an issue, a complication, an unfortunate inconvenience for the league that puts you at risk of the same collective mindset that we've seen apply to others. The league, the machine, the 31 independent businesses that is held together under the shield, under Big Shield, under that umbrella. They shy away from certain people for certain reasons. Legal, PR, whatever the case may be. That's the concern I'd have as well. That at some point that machine that is the NFL is just going to say, we can't do it. We can't let this guy be part of it.
Yeah, I agreed. It's I think it's something that is going to be on radar. My history in the NFL, there's two of course nobody in the NFL likes injury history, right? So anytime there's a player that's got any injury history, it's concerning to a football team. But it goes to another level with two injuries. When anything there's neck or head and it's a little bit, whoa, there's too much or there's a little worry there, you get put in the black book or for lack of a better phrase, blackballed in the NFL as far as teams just don't want to take the risk of having to deal with that story and the repercussions of what could happen there. So that's where it's interesting. And I do wonder, Mike, too, are we going to hit the point here one day where, like you just talked about with Tua, they're going to play Minnesota. He's cleared, right? But they keep him out just because of the optics of the situation. When is that going to happen? Like, that I could see that being a problem at some point, too. A team going to a player and going, hey, you're cleared, but we'd like you to sit out another week. It'll only be a matter of time before a player goes, no, I was cleared and I'm playing. It's my life. Be quiet. But this is a sensitive subject, and I think it's something that the NFL is going to have to continue to dive into and get details, and we'll see where this goes with Tua. This is very interesting with such a big game on the horizon this weekend against the Patriots.
I'll be stunned if he plays this weekend against the Patriots, and I'll be stunned if he plays in Week 18. And at this point, if they don't have him, I think that's going to be part of it. I think that It's just too much. If you're one of the 32 owners, we have to remember how this business works. The commissioner works for the 32 owners, and there's a handful of them that call the shots. And you get to a point where you're like, this season, on one hand, we've been able to stick our chests out and talk about all the close games and the fourth quarter comebacks. It's been exciting. It's a great time for the National Football League. We're 2 years removed from the pandemic. Everybody's making money. But, we got to deal with this. This Tua thing keeps popping up. This isn't good for anybody. Let's get Steve Ross on the phone here and make sure he understands the way it's got to be. Here's the way it's got to be, Steve. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to make the playoffs this year, but the collective interests of the game are bigger than that. It's going to drag us down if this Tua thing continues to be something that idiots like Florio and Simms talk about for the first 40 minutes of their show. We'd rather them talk about football games. We'd rather them talk about exciting comebacks. We'd rather them talk about anything but this. How is that not part of the conversation when you get behind closed doors? We know in any business, the conversations that happen behind closed doors are a hell of a lot different than the ones that happen out in the open. How is that not the most obvious conversation? The impact of this constant Tua drama on our business in a negative way. And I feel bad for Tua. And this is why players don't come forward with their symptoms, because that's the end game. If you're causing these issues excessively. And if you become the guy who is identified with it and you keep having these concussions, it is just a matter of time before they're done with you. It is just a matter of time before they say, we're not clearing you or we're not keeping you. There's just no place for you at this table because you are the guy who keeps suffering these head injuries that's dragging down the whole sport. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's real. And those are actual considerations that the folks who run the sport are going to have. How could they not?
Agreed, Mike. I'm with you there all the way. They got to protect the sport, protect the shield at the very least. And yeah, this is a huge subject. In households with children playing football everywhere is the protection of the brain and the head. And this is a quarterback that has a following of little kids and we see he's got a mafia in the social media. It's a mafia. You can't say anything about him. You can't. And they just absolutely attack you and tear you apart. And they don't want to hear it. So that in itself, this is a quarterback with a huge following, and it's a sensitive subject, and it's one that's already got a spotlight on it, and now there's 2 spotlights on it, so they got to be careful.
Yes, absolutely. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops, but I'll be surprised if we see him again this year. And that's not me saying he shouldn't play again this year. I think the broader question is, should he ever play again? But if he's cleared, he should play. I have a feeling they're not going to clear him for reasons other than whether or not he is in a position where he can and should be cleared. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.